Man. Woo. But no, like you make a very valid point. You make a absolutely very valid point. And you know what? After everything you just explained, I think those actually can be extremely beneficial when it comes to, especially like going back to like all this is helping people learn to again like love themselves. People learn to actually what it means to be human.
Yeah.
And not to go too off our topic with it, but like one thing you said was like testing and whatnot. And I understand, like yeah, the education system is the way it is now. But like when you ask a child, whatever, what do they want to do, what it may be, and there's these subjects that have absolutely maybe nothing to do with it, whatever it may be, and because they do bad, oh, they got to be held back.
Yeah.
But when I see that, like when I see like, or if I ever hear someone got held back or whatever it may be, I see that as someone holding them back from their real potential, like who that kid or a teenager or young adult is meant to be at that point. So I mean, definitely a lot of things that can relate on you, and I actually think a lot of those things really could actually solve these problems of helping kids to help find that self love, because then that eliminates, that will help eliminate at least bullying, violence, all this kind of stuff, because it's all built. Because the thing about it is, I don't think a lot of people realize, I don't have a PhD in this. I just want to make that very clear.
Me
It's just
either.
more, it's just more. I'm gonna call it my sense of common sense, but it's just like like when you're a kid, and especially in high school, there's a lot more stress on people, on those teenagers than people realize. Like, yeah, everybody graduates or whatnot, but like there really is a lot more stress. I mean, that when you're a teenager, you're in because I was reading an article that was saying there are two times when you are most vulnerable. And when it's saying most vulnerable, what it was saying was like in the sense of like being like very depressed, angry, and sometimes even towards that suicidal side. And the two most vulnerable times were your teens, so teenagers, and because well, I'm gonna get to the and, but teenagers, and the second one are like older people, like 70s, 80s, because the reason for that is because one side, the teenagers, think their life has barely started,
Yeah.
whereas older people feel like, well, it's already basically over.
It's
So
done. Yeah.
exactly. So that's why they're the most two vulnerable. So I mean, yeah, I think a lot of that really could help fix that and fluctuate those problems and create that self-love with one another um, as well. So, but yeah, leading to my next question. So when it came to being a mindfulness coach, right? So we got behind like, what was your passion? What inspired you, to find that, so everybody could find that self-love, so everybody could find their true potential even within themselves. So what were the challenges your way facing this? Whether it may have been emotionally, mentally, actually building this business up. What were some of the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them?
So one of the major challenges that I had to overcome was fear. My mom and my grandma were both entrepreneurs in their life. However, their businesses had taken off. They had reached the top of something. They had Rolls Royces, and then it came crashing down. So to me, I saw entrepreneurship as a crash.
Right.
I had to overcome that fear, that limiting belief I put on myself. And because I thought, yes, I see that this is my passion. But I said, but that means I have to be an entrepreneur. I don't like that word. I'm like, I'm like, no, I can't. A coach. What other word can I use? And I kept running from that.
Hmm.
So for me, overcoming that took some diving into me. I call it having tea with your demons,
Okay.
where you sit down and you have those conversations with yourself, whether you write it down or you talk it out in the mirror, where you really figure out what those fears are that are limiting you from reaching your full potential.
Hmm.
Um, I did some work on my emotional intelligence. I dove deep into all the different areas of how to recognize when you're being triggered, um, to recognize the emotion, how to process it, and then dive into where did it really originate from, so that I did not bubble over when I would be rejected or being told no, or telling someone about my idea that was a family member or a friend, and they were just like, "Oh, okay," those kind of things. You're going to hit those.
Hmm.
You're gonna encounter those. You're going to be told no. Your rejection is a part of life.
Right.
But it's not the rejection that's the problem. It's how you process it. It's how you react to it. If I just turned
Yeah.
around and went on my social media and just was like, I can't stand blah 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 because they that would nobody would want to work with me. Nobody,
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly.
they're like she's ranting or she's angry and she can't even control her emotions. How would she help me to move, overcome something?
Right.
So all of those things were things that I did before I even created the LLC because I knew that those were things that were going to come up that I needed to overcome. Even down to my relationship with and my friendships, how I viewed people and connections with people, not being timid around people that made millions of dollars or whatever, and putting myself in uncomfortable situations where I felt little or small, and learning how to overcome those. All of that's a journey, all of that's a process. Like there's so much to um really truly finding out who you are and how to thrive in that,
Hmm.
that and it's so different for everyone.
It is. It's very, very different. Like I love, like seriously, I love that you touched up on it. And you know what's I wouldn't say crazy, but what's I'm gonna just say crazy. I know I just said not crazy. I'm just stick with that word because that's what I got going on. But because you're the third person I've had on here, and every single person I've talked to has always said, hey, you're gonna get told no a lot. You're gonna be going through all these challenges, and a lot of times people, I personally believe that a lot of people know it's not like easy, but in the
Mhm.
sense that it should be given in some sense. Like in the sense of like, well, I put in 10 hours this week, so I should get this, so, or, I put, a month or two into something that requires 2 or 3 years maybe to be fully aware of and knowledgeable of, and I should get this. And then when they get those no's, again, when they get those refusals, it's like, oh man, I'm not meant for this. I can't do it. This. I think it's just a matter of people realizing like you just got to go through the no's and just get that one yes. And like I'm sure everybody's probably heard this by now, but it only takes one yes. It only takes one yes from someone to elevate. Because once you're in, cool, guess what? Now you basically get to like sprout and like grow even more.
And blossom. That's a
So
blossom.
it's
Yeah.
right. It's just a matter, so like you said, I mean, it's just a matter of keep going and definitely being aware of like your environment. I say is truly key as well.
Yeah.
So what would you say to people who maybe have people in their life that they feel like they owe? So like they could say like a family or friend, for
Mm.
example, right? So they feel like, okay, well, this is my family. This is my friend for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I mean, if this is what they think, I'm gonna just trust them with it. Or oh, if they don't like what I'm doing, you know what? They probably know better than I do, which typically is not the case, right? Because you're discovering yourself, like you said, you're still discovering yourself along the way. So what would you say to people who um, are like keeping those people around who just like, they're not helping them. If anything, they're draining them from who they're supposed to be. Like, how would you tell them like, hey, this is the realization of is developing who you want to be and doing the things you say you want to do?
Um, it's gonna sound a little bit, but my thing to this would be, if they died tomorrow, how much would their opinion have mattered to you?
Ooh, tell them,
That's
tell
it.
them.
That's point blank, period. If you are not going to live in a legacy of them, then it does not matter their opinion of what you should do with your life, because it's your life.
Simple as
They
that.
they live theirs their way, and their opinion does not define you.
Exactly. And no, you're absolutely spot on with that because I'm assuming, do you know who Eric Thomas is? He's
No.
uh he's like a motivational speaker, goes on stages, gets paid to, well, motivational speak. But basically he said something along the lines of, you know, you care more about people's opinions than their opinion towards you. Meaning, in a sense, like this person can have this idea of you, but they don't fully care as much as we perceive it as. It's just like this is their opinion. In the end of the day, that right there, I can always definitely say opinions or letting people think this idea of you is definitely top three, at least in my opinion, top three of like what stops people from being who they want to be. Because it's like in the end of the day, it's like, like you said, it is your life. I always tell I told my audience, I told people who listen on all my socials, like, you got to think about it like this. Basically, what you said, there's gonna be a time, you're getting older, you're not getting younger. I said, time is going down. It's not coming back up, right? We're not getting no more time. The moment we were born to the day that
The
we're
clock
gone,
started
it's
ticking.
1 quarter. You got 1 quarter, right? And I tell people this, I'm like, you got to think, as you're getting older and older, you're 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, God willing, 80s, 90s even. It's like, you got to think, look back and think, are you happy with what you lived through? And it sticks with people. I've had people message me saying like, hey, I never really thought about it like that or whatnot, because I'm such a person on, don't live with regrets, basically what you're saying. And one of those regrets is like, hey, you caring so much about other people's opinions, which by the way, to anybody watching this, because I did this as an experiment, go out, go, whether it's a nursing home, whatever, go find a group of like maybe 60, 70-year-olds, whoever they may be, and ask them about what, their regrets, their life and stuff like that. And they typically, sometimes they'll have like a list of things, and they always tell young people like, hey, when we say
Don't
people
have a
don't
list.
care,
Yeah.
exactly, go live. But no, that's absolutely awesome. So I'm happy you gave your insight on that. So Alexis, what is your long-term goal with what you want to do with, with mindfulness coach and whatnot? So long-term goal, whether that's, hey, you're expanding nationwide, worldwide, whatever it may be, or something for you. Like, what is your long-term goal with the path you're on now?
For me, my long-term goal is very simple. I'm a very simple person. I want really just to touch as many people as I can. If that expands me to worldwide, then I'm highly excited about that. Right now, I am just really grateful to have the opportunity
Hmm.
to share my voice and to help people to really just start to attract abundance into their life.
Exactly.
Because it's so much easier to be happy
It
than to
is.
be miserable.
It is. No, no, no. It is.
It's
It
so much
is.
it's so much better. And your current situation does not define your final destination.
Hmm.
Um, and so for me, like I said, I want a very simple life. So mine is I actually want to have like 7 acres of land. I want to own a trailer community where we grow our own stuff on site for the community. I would accept Section 8 so that other moms or single dads or whomever, families that are just trying to get started and build their
Hmm.
wealth, I want to help in them to be able to do that. And then I would have a nutritionist on site, a 24-hour childcare facility, just because in my area, we have a lot of overnight jobs.
Yeah.
So we just really don't have the childcare for overnight kind of care. So that would be something that I would want to have. But as far as my career, like I said, I really just want to help as many people as I can in whatever that journey takes me. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to help people.
That's phenomenal. I love that answer so much. Thank you so much for sharing the insight of your long-term goal. And I hope definitely towards the end of this episode, guys, that definitely there was something you were able to take away from Alexis. I mean, I'll say this: every person I've talked to, even though you're just my third one, but this is what even makes me more excited to keep going with like my podcast. Is I love hearing the individual stories, because you really start to get a sentimental feeling of what it does mean to be human. You know what I mean? Like going through mistakes, failure, laughter. You have your ups, you have your downs, but it's your life and you're growing as a person. And I think you demonstrated a lot of that in this call as well. So, final question before we end the episode: what is one piece of advice you want to leave for the audience, whether um, it's about pursuing a field, it's about finding that self-love in themselves? What's one piece of advice that you want to leave with them?
So I actually wrote it down. It's a from a Turkish poet named Rumi. So I'm just read it.
All
Okay.
right.
It says, "What is poison? Anything which is more than a necessity is poison. It may be power, wealth, hunger, your ego, greed, laziness, love, ambition, or hate. Any of those things could be poison. So be careful. What is fear? Non-acceptance of uncertainty. If we accept that uncertainty then it could actually become an adventure. What is envy? Non-acceptance of the good in others. If we can accept that they're good in other people, then they can become inspirational. What is anger? Non-acceptance of things which are beyond our control. If we learn to accept that we are not in control, then it becomes tolerance. What is hatred? Non-existence of a person as he is. If we can accept that people are just people, then we can have unconditional love, even for yourself.
Absolutely. That was awesome. That was phenomenal. His name was, you say he was a Turkish poet. What was his name again?
Rumi, Rumi. I could be pronouncing it horribly.
Okay. I would say no, I'd probably say the same exact way as you. That was phenomenal. I love that. I love that. Even though, you know, like I said, and I love when I was just talking about, you know, learning something new or taking something away, even just hearing you reading off of that, like, it made me start to think about like, wow, a lot more stuff as well. And I'm hoping that it did the same for you guys who are watching as well. But in the meantime, that is all that we have for this episode. Alexis, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us. I really do appreciate it. I think you gave a lot of great insight, a lot of great value. And I think that I not even think, I know that there's something, whether it's a little bit or not. Oh, hold on, I just ran into a bit of an error. Okay. No, I just had something pop up on my screen. But I think there's something that we could definitely take away when it comes to self-love, like comes to like understanding one another, or at least trying to our best to understand one another from understanding ourselves, like where we are, like, hey, it's okay that I'm only 15 and I'm going through this stuff, right? Just don't let it over, you know, try not to let it overstress me, you know, relax, meditate, do all these things that's going to make me relax and make me happy. Because I like not the last thing, but one of the things you said was when you are happy, like when you are genuinely happy in life, you tend to realize actually things get a lot better for you.
Yeah.
Really, seriously. And it's like when you're at the point of like, you could say, yes, I am a happy individual and truly mean that, it only goes up from there. And that's when I believe like all the blessings, all the things that you've been meant to have will come in and manifest into your life. So
Gratitude is the best attitude.
gratitude is the best attitude. I love that. So, all right. Well, thank you everybody who's been watching. Again, Alexis, thank you one more time for being on. I really appreciate you being on. Definitely have you on in the near future for more valuable information. That was absolutely awesome. I thank you so much for that. So to everybody else watching, thank you so much for watching the podcast, and I will see you all in the next one.